Samuel Dustwalker. Hayes had spent most of his life roaming the borders between the known and the forgotten, riding through the dry ribs of the Arizona frontier where silence talked, louder than men. The year was 1876, when he stumbled upon something fate had kept hidden for centuries, an untouched stream of gold, buried deep in Apache territory. He hadn't been looking for treasure. He'd been tracking lost cattle near the jagged red canyon walls, chasing hoof marks that faded into the hot, deceptive shimmer rising from the desert floor. What he found instead was a narrow crack in a boulder, glowing faintly in the last breath of sunset. Samuel crouched, ran his fingers over it, and realized it wasn't a trick of light. Pure gold, soft as butter, jutting from the rock like a promise from heaven. His breath caught. A single vein like that could change a man's fate forever. Buy a ranch twice the size of Tucson, and feed a dozen families for 10 generations. But as he lifted his eyes, he saw them. 3 Apache warriors perched on a ridge above him. Silent, unmoving, but watching him with eyes that held the ancient weight of land, blood and law. He wasn't trespassing by accident. He was deep inside sacred land, a place whispered to be guarded by the spirits of their ancestors. Samuel rose slowly, spreading his hands to show he carried no malice. The warriors descended the slope as quiet as dusk shadows. Their leader, a tall man with long raven hair braided with eagle feathers, stepped forward. He was known across the frontier as Katan, son of the tribal chief. Samuel had heard stories of him, brave, wise, feared, and fiercely protective of every grain of sand within Apache borders. Katan looked from Samuel to the exposed gold, then back at Samuel, waiting to see what kind of man the cowboy truly was. Samuel could have lied. He could have run. He could have claimed he hadn't seen the gold at all. But something inside him, something older than greed, kept him honest. He told Katan he'd found the vein by chance, that he meant no harm, and that he hadn't taken a single flake of it. Katan circled Samuel slowly, reading his truth not just from his words, but from the shape of his spirit. Then the Apache warriors stepped aside, showing him the path out, but Katan's voice stopped him. "The land remembers," he said simply, "and so do we." Samuel nodded and walked away from the richest vein he had ever laid, eyes on, feeling its weight not in his pocket but in his chest. When he reached his horse and mounted up, the night sky had already swallowed the canyon. As he rode back toward town, the stars looked sharper, almost as if the heavens themselves had seen the choice he made. That night Samuel slept without gold, without treasure, without proof that he had let go of something most men would kill for. But in his heart he carried a strange peace he couldn't explain, like he had traded one kind of fortune for another. Days turned into months, months into years. Life pushed forward. Samuel's ranch struggled, then nearly failed when drought hit. His home slowly fell apart. Storms broke his fences. Cattle died. Crops withered. Folks whispered that he should have taken the gold when he found it, that fate had handed him a miracle, and he'd been too foolish, or too proud, to claim it. Samuel never defended himself. What he had done in the canyon had never been for others to understand. He had walked away from the gold because it wasn't his, and once a man decides the kind of man he is, the world can't shake him. 13 long years passed. Samuel grew older, lonelier, and poorer, but somewhere deep in Apache territory, beyond the reach of wagons and maps, a memory of a cowboy who walked away from someone else's treasure stayed alive, like a flame waiting for the right wind to rise. The year was 1889 when the past rode back into Samuel's life, not as a whisper of regret, but as a thunder of horses kicking up dust on the horizon. Samuel stood outside his failing ranch, leaning on the fence he had patched too many times. When he saw a group approaching, 6 riders moving in a deliberate formation, their silhouettes unmistakably Apache, his heart tightened. After 13 years he had no reason to fear them, but unexpected visits from warriors rarely meant something simple. When they reached him, the man at the front dismounted, and Samuel recognized him immediately, Katan, older now, with more scars, more authority, and more stories written across his stern features. Without a word, Katan extended his hand. Samuel took it, surprised by the strength and respect in the gesture. "The land remembers," Katan said again, the same words from so many years ago. But this time they carried a different weight. The warriors motioned for Samuel to mount up and follow. Confused but trusting, he saddled his tired horse and joined them as they headed toward the far deserts. descending into the canyon he had once walked away from. Hours passed before they reached it, the same crack in the rock, except now the once small vein of gold had revealed itself as a massive, glittering seam running deep beneath the earth. Samuel's breath trembled. It was worth more now than he could have even dreamed back then. Katan stepped forward and placed a hand on the rock. "For generations this gold belonged to our people," he said. "But when you found it, you left it untouched. You respected our land in a time when few men respected anything but their own hunger. 13 years have passed. Our council has spoken. Our tribe has decided." He turned to Samuel with eyes that softened just slightly. "This gold is now yours to share with us, not taken by force, given in trust." Samuel felt the world slow around him. He shook his head, overwhelmed. "I didn't do anything to deserve this." Katan's voice dropped low. "Integrity is more valuable than gold, and rarer." Together they walked deeper into the canyon where the warriors had already begun preparations, sacks, tools, mules. They had spent weeks uncovering the vein, knowing the day would come when they would honor the promise their hearts had made the night Samuel left. They gave Samuel a share large enough to rebuild his ranch, expand his land, hire workers, and secure a future he never imagined possible. But what surprised him even more was the agreement they offered: a partnership, a bond between his ranch and the tribe, trading goods, protection, and knowledge of the land. Samuel didn't just gain wealth that day. He gained allies, friends, and a place in a community that had once been closed to all outsiders. When he returned home with mules loaded with gold, the townspeople stared in disbelief, asking where it had come from, how he had found it again. Samuel only smiled and said, "Sometimes the good you leave behind comes back when you need it most." And he meant every word. His ranch flourished, his life changed, and the bond between him and the Apache tribe became legend, told around campfires, whispered in town halls, and carried through generations as a story of honor over greed. And in the quiet hours of the night, when Samuel stood on his porch watching the stars, he remembered the canyon, the choice he made, and the tribe that remembered it for 13 long years. Gold fades, fortunes shift. But integrity, when honored, echoes forever across the Wild West.